Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our webinar on planning finances and study abroad in the UK, Ireland, Canada, and USA. My name is Jatin Motwani. I work with HDFC Credila and as the branding and communication head. And we have with us today Mr. Ranveer Puri, who's the director of the Combine Company. Ranveer has over 15 years of experience in international education industry and has successfully guided students to various leading international universities like University of Oxford, Cambridge, New York University, Harvard, Carnegie Mellon University, University of Toronto. I can go on and on, Ranveer. So let me just start with a very hearty welcome to you on our webinar.
Right. No, thank you so much, Jatin, and thank you so much, everyone at HDFC Credila to invite me again. We have been doing this for the last couple of years at successfully sending students to HDFC Credila for the student loan market, which is one of the largest loan markets in the world, and obviously HDFC Credila being the market leader in student loans with the flexibility of faster transaction processing times and collateral fee and some
The interest rates, collaterals. We are just here to help each and every student achieve their dream.
Wonderful. So I'll have my colleague from Newcastle joining me soon, but in the interest of time, mine is the first part of the presentation. I'll just introduce myself. As Jatin mentioned, I'm Ranveer. I'm with Combine Company. We have a edtech brand, which is combineco.com and bestfituniversities.com. And we've been in business for the last 20 plus years. We've been guiding students across India, importantly for their admissions for both undergrad and postgrad. So UG and PG scholarship applications, both from the governments and universities, and we do visas for the students working with the high commissions of popular countries such as UK, Ireland, Australia, Canada, various European countries. And we guide students and assist students for student loans, primarily HDFC Credila, and also assist in the student university accommodations, both on and off campus, FX remittances in 30 plus currencies for fee payments and travel cards. And we are alumni from leading universities. Some of them have been mentioned here, both Ivy League and Russell League in the top 10, top 20 in the world. So we have that credibility and that professional counselors who assist us in the journey for students, and our website bestfituniversities.com is a searchable website where students can search over 100,000 courses at 500 plus universities. We encourage many of you to use that. You can create a login and search for the university and even upload your documents and everything else, and it's a seamless process.
Great.
Just a quick snapshot: admissions, financial aid and visa guidance. You name the country, we have done it. UK, Ireland, USA, European countries, UAE, Singapore being the main ones. And like I said, over 500 universities. I can't put them all here. Some of them are simply just mentioned here for reference.
Yeah, it took my breath away mentioning all of them. So
right. So a quick agenda. I know many of you across India in this current time have wanting to study either this year or next year, either the May-June intake and the September intake or the Jan intake. So the idea was to just give you a quick snapshot as to what we're going to discuss today. I would encourage you to put questions in the chat once we go through it. So we will cover. I'll give you a snapshot of the admission trends overall and how to plan your finances, which is the most important thing apart from getting admission for studying in the popular countries. And just a quick snapshot of the 4 popular destinations very quickly, and I'll hand over to my colleague Newcastle University, who will give a 15-20 minute presentation, and we'll take Q&A, which you can direct either to myself or Newcastle or Jatin at Credila. So I think in the times that we've lived in for the last 1 or 2 years, pre and post COVID, 2022 is important because we saw a sheer rise, significant, maybe 2 to 4x in certain countries rise in applications. That's important because as students, you're applying to countries for admission, competing with others, not just in your own country, but in other countries. Wait lists have increased, especially for various countries, Canada, US, 3 to 6 months wait lists, and that has caused early course closures where courses are being oversubscribed. So the important thing is obviously Indian students cohort has increased substantially, overtaking the China market even. And even where students have been asked or told that you are test optional, but typically a good test, a standardized test, whether it's TOEFL or English language or a SAT or a GRE, GMAT, helps differentiate your profile. Important thing is start early, 6, 12, 18 months prior to admissions. And this is a snapshot which is important when you apply to, irrespective of any country. On the left side, we have the funding requirement, which is your tuition fee being the main part, then living expenses and others with your health and travel insurance. So that's your funding requirement when you apply for a visa, right? That's the money that you need to show to the visa officer. And the source of funds is typically, for majority of students, it's student education loans. In some case, it can be 50, 70, 80% even. Important thing is to have some self-family or sponsorship funds. I'll take you a snapshot of the different countries, what kind of funds are available. Some element of scholarships are available, which are highly competitive. And important things for a visa point of view is to have greater than or equal sources of funds compared to your requirement. That will help you get your visa in a time-effective manner. This is a very quick snapshot, again intended to give you a snapshot across markets. The main markets we're covering today, which is UK, Ireland, USA, Canada. I've just tried to give you a very quick snapshot as to the typical duration, which is by and large common. UK largely being a 3-year, like Ireland, it could be up to 4 years if you do certain courses, which is a year in industry. USA is typically a 4-year market. Canada, associate diploma is a 2 to 4 year market. UK typically has a 1 to 2 year degree, and Ireland typically 1 year to 18 months. USA, it depends. Some masters are 1 year, some are 2 years, and Canada similarly. Tuition fees can vary significantly from university to university, and I think the important thing is plan your budget accordingly, especially with the depreciation of the rupee. You need to be a little wary of not just looking at the time when you apply, but perhaps look at the historical rates. Living costs are largely similar, not significantly different. The opportunity for co-op and part-time work is largely similar. In some countries like US and Canada, you can only do co-op within or on campus. UK gives you the flexibility of doing it off campus too. So if you have some work ex, you'll be able to get work, make more money, and maybe help kind of substantiate your living expenses too. Post-study work visa, given most countries' requirement for skilled workers, STEM courses, most countries now, UK in the last 2 years has provided an attractive 2 years post-study work stay back where students can work without being sponsored, unlike in certain countries, and opportunity to switch to a skilled worker visa or even an entrepreneurship visa. Ireland similarly gives you a 2 year stay back of 18 months to 12 to 24 months for postgraduate courses. USA is typically most popular for STEM programs, so science, technology, and engineering, maths. Canada typically gives up to a 3 years post-study work visa. Standardized test is important because it helps you meet both the academic requirement and the visa requirements. That's something which you need to be aware of, both for admissions and for certain management and specialized law courses and medicine courses. So GRE, GMAT being popular, IELTS being typically standardized across, UK CAT and BMAT, UK CAT being for law, LNAT being, UK CAT being for medicine, LNAT being for law. Gap, a lot of students have gap, we get a lot of queries. I have 1 year, 2 year gap. You need to clarify what you've done. post your bachelor's. If you have backlogs, it's important. 5 to 7 is typically considered reasonable, but less the better. Funding requirement from a visa point of view, UK only allows you funds from your parents, which is your immediate parents, yourself, and education loan. Certain other countries are a little more flexible, allowing family fund, which is uncle, aunt, relative, and other members, immediate members, with proof of relationship. So that's just a very quick snapshot. I'll just take a quick deep dive into each in the next 5-10 minutes, and we'll just cover certain countries. And most popular one being the UK, is an attractive destination for students, having some of the top reputed world-class universities. And the historical association, the format of education is largely similar and has been similar, especially now with the new education policy and the dual recognition of the
Sorry.
so that helps. So students in the UK can progress to Indian universities, and Indian qualifications are recognized in the UK, and UK qualifications recognized in India. And that is a significant step up in the last several years in terms of student mobility. Scholarships are attractive depending upon your profile, and that's something which helps you to differentiate either a government or a student's scholarship from the university. Masters work placements are there for some courses. I'll just cover that in the next slide. And the important thing, as I mentioned, is on and off campus work is allowed in the UK, which helps you the flexibility of work. And the 2 years graduate immigration route is the post-study work visa with routes for further employment within the UK. And there's a short list of occupations which allows you to work in the UK, and there's a demand for those. Master's courses are popular, especially for some of them which are professional, offering a 1-year industrial placement pretty much across the board. Not all universities do that, some of them do that, between engineering, IT, data science being the most popular, then moving on to MBA, and some in law and finance and accounting and management, again being very popular. So it's a good opportunity for students who have and looking for some good international exposure to go for a 2-year. And the 2-year post-study work visa is there anyway. There's a lot of scholarships out there. I've just tried to give you a snapshot. On the top are typically your fully funded government scholarships. At the bottom are your specialized scholarships, which are towards medicine, arts, such as the Charles Wallace India Trust. And in the middle, we have government scholarships shared with universities, such as the Great Scholarships, and then regional scholarships, such as Scotland scholarships and VC scholarships at some of the universities. So there's a lot of flexibility. Typically, you need to apply 12 months in advance, if not 6 months in advance. University scholarships typically have cutoffs in March. So it's important to know and budget accordingly. Ireland has and continues to be a very strong destination for hosting some of the top world's universities, typically the gateway of Europe, very popular for computing, IT, pharma, Chem-Eng, finance, banking, and BPO industries. Again, smaller country, but very strong in various sectors which I've just indicated, with some of the top world-class universities, of which there are about 20 plus in Ireland. Again, some element of scholarships at the top end are their fully funded Government of Ireland scholarships. They are open currently. Again, deadlines coming up in March. They're applying, they're giving scholarships up to 10,000 euros, which is around 9 lakhs. So it can cover almost 40%, 50% of your tuition fees. And then there are independent scholarships such as the Erasmus and INLACs, promoting various courses, giving you approximately 8 to 9 lakh scholarships. The bottom end, you have sort of university scholarships. Again, deadlines apply. Do get in touch or look up the university sites. But we'll be more than glad to assist you. I was looking at the time, so seems to be okay. We're looking at Canada, which has and continues to have one of the most welcoming admission policies. And typically has some of the world's leading universities too. and you need to be really aware of the visa requirements can be quite challenging, and you need to prepare accordingly for that. Canada typically has lesser scholarships, which are mainly, university focused. Some of them are 10-20%. It could go higher, but then you need to have an excellent profile to do that. I'll just try to indicate, the kind of scholarships which are out there from U Toronto, UBC, Manitoba, being the top universities, and then, regional colleges such as Douglas, Ottawa, Alberta, Trent. United States has and is a very open system with over 6,000 universities. We can't really cover many of them, but just as a snapshot, there are high quality regional, state, and private universities. And I would encourage you to look beyond the Ivies, because they're very good state universities and private universities, which are good in the regional rankings and in the subject rankings. Again, giving you the flexibility to work for 3 years, especially for the STEM courses. Scholarships, again, are available out there. Again, at the top end are the full scholarships, and at the bottom end are the university scholarships, highly competitive. The financial aid process is quite complex. In the US, we assist a lot of students to the US and the other countries I've mentioned. And sometimes it can impact your admissions chances too. So some are need blind and some are need aware. And depending on your profile, if you're asking for a scholarship or financial aid, it may impact your chances of admission. That's pretty much a very quick rush through. The idea was to give you a very quick snapshot and more open it up for the chat. And please do put your questions in. I will now hand over to my colleague.
So before Achint begins, let me take this opportunity to introduce Achint. He is the regional manager for India and Bangladesh for Newcastle University out of England. Newcastle is one of UK's leading university, ranked in the top 40 and 1% in the world, and offers a wide range of internationally accredited courses in business, MBA, management, data science, engineering, just the whole gamut. So welcome, Achint.
Thank you so much, Jatin. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Hi, everyone. Should I just get ready with the presentation straight away, or?
Yeah, I guess so. In the interest of time,
you can give a intro of a video. I think that always helps.
All right, I can start with the video. Yes. This is we've got a couple of videos. I think I'll start with one and then we'll end with another one. Just give me a quick second while I try and get the screen share to work. Just a quick second.
Okay. Make another attendee the presenter. Is that it?
Yeah.
I can't see Achint on it. Maybe I can give it to you, Jatin, and you can pass it on. Or
Yeah, I believe.
Can you try, Achint? You're not able to share your screen.
I'm just trying.
It should be as an organizer.
Actually, Achint, screen is already being viewed. We are just waiting.
Oh, is it?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen now?
Yep.
Yep.
There we go.
Oh, perfect. All right.
Wonderful.
There we go. Can you also see hear the video?
I don't think
Not
we can
yet.
hear it. See it though.
I think you may have to share.
That's what I was
sound.
trying to sort out. Did someone give me sharing rights?
I think you already have it because we can see it.
Oh, okay. All right. I'm gonna.
In the settings, you can see share computer sound, perhaps.
Audio. Not sure how that works in terms of the
How
audio.
about we put the link up of the videos
Yeah,
within the chat itself for
yeah,
all the attendees to see,
yeah.
and then we can just play the video here.
Okay, perfect. We'll do that. I'll just put it up. Can you still see my screen?
Yeah, still
Okay,
visible.
perfect.
And maybe the settings, the flower at the bottom, top, bottom right settings.
Can you see the video or are you seeing yourselves?
We can see
No,
the
we are
video,
seeing the video.
we just can't hear it, that's all.
Perfect. Sorry, just 1 second.
This is just a message to the audience up until we wait for Achin to set it up. We actually have 4 polls going, so it would be great if you guys can just respond to the polls.
Great. Perfect. Jatin, while I share my screen, can I also see my own presentation? Because I couldn't do that with the video.
Yeah, I think so. I think mine has knocked off.
Did we lose Jatin?
No, I'm right here.
Ah,
Just
okay.
lost the screen. Sorry about that. We've been having network issues all day over here. So
Let's not get into the issues that we're having. It's been
right.
quite a nightmarish day.
Yeah, I guess it's the whole country then. Okay, so let's move forward, I suppose.
Perfect. Quickly, I'm just gonna try and
There we go. It's visible now.
wait. Can you see my presentation?
Yeah.
Yes, we.
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for going through that video. Apologies for the few tech issues. 3 years into COVID, we should have done a little better than that, but I take the fall for that.
Okay.
Great. So I'm just gonna take you through about a 25-minute presentation about Newcastle. I'll talk you through the university, what we do, what we're known for, and a bit about the city, where we're based. in the world and why we're quite proud of ourselves. But we'll start from here. Just a bit about what we're going to talk through. So I will talk you through the big courses that we're famous for, the ones that we really do well in, our entry requirements for Indian students, fees, scholarships, university. The university does provide accommodation for international students. It's guaranteed. So I'll run you through a bit of that, and of course, once you've graduated, what's going to be available to you in terms of careers and the support that the university provides in terms of that. And of course, all of that will include your student experience, so I will talk to you about that too. Perfect. So for those of you who don't know, Newcastle is a city based in the northeast of England. It's the largest city in the northeast. There are 2 universities based in the city. Together, they bring in about 50,000 students from over 150 different countries. So it's quite multicultural and quite an international city. We're also throughout this presentation, you're going to see a number of bridges. Newcastle is known for lots of really beautiful and engineering marvels that we've created on the River Tyne, which flows through the city. So in terms of the geography, that's where it's based. Newcastle is up in the northeast over here, very close to the Scottish border. We are about 2.5 to 3 hours from London by train, just a little less than an hour by flight. However, Newcastle has its own international airport, so we're quite well connected to the world, whether you're flying in from the US or if you're flying in from anywhere in Europe. There's a flight from Dubai every day. Emirates flies to Newcastle. So if you are coming from any city in India, you could fly to Europe or to Dubai and take a connecting flight straight to Newcastle. Just like I mentioned, we are very multicultural, quite international as a university. In the last couple of years, those numbers have changed a little bit. They've only increased, so to say. So we are currently represented by over 130 nationalities and about 7,500 international students. Of course, our main campus is based in the city of Newcastle. However, we do have a engineering school in Singapore, which runs in partnership with the National University of Singapore. It's currently only available to Singaporean students. Along with that, there is a medical school campus in Malaysia, which is open to international students from all over the world. We're very proud of our research in sustainability and climate change. We're currently ranked #1 in the UK for that and #8 in the world based on the latest Times Higher Education impact rankings. We're also ranked 122 in the world as a university. So yeah, like Jatin said, we're in the top 1% in the world and quite well known for that too. In terms of student satisfaction or being one of the most targeted universities in the UK when it comes to big graduate employers, Newcastle is known for its student employability. And we do quite a lot of work with regards to that to help students while they're on their degrees, but also after they graduate to help them, get their future careers off the ground. A number of our courses that rank, in the top subjects in the UK. Some of them are mentioned here, but we've got a few more than the ones just mentioned here. So of course, we're very well known for medicine. It's our oldest school. Medicine and dentistry is something we're very famous for. But apart from that, all your traditional engineering courses, computing design, game engineering, architecture, biology, psychology, of course, environmental sciences, renewable energy, all of these courses is something that Newcastle is very well known for. Great. In terms of it being a really student-friendly city, we are, based on rankings for the last few years, one of the most affordable big cities in the UK, which means access for a lot of leisure activities or just living your life as a student in the city of Newcastle is very good for your pockets and makes life a lot easier as a student. If not one of the safest cities just across the UK, it's probably one of the safest cities across all of Europe, which makes it very easy for international students to kind of become part of the city and acclimatize to the area. One of my favorite things about Newcastle is that it doesn't rain as much as the rest of the UK.
One of the dry cities.
Yes, and I really like that about Newcastle. England is quite pretty, the UK is quite pretty, but a lot of the cities in the UK get a heavy amount of rain, and it's not the greatest to just walk around every day in a lot of rain. But Newcastle gets a lot of sunny weather. We're based on the North Sea coast. Not as sunny as India, of course. We do have our rain, but still a lot better than the rest of the UK. And coming to the fact that we're based on the North Sea coast, we've got a lot of beautiful beaches all across that area. Some, of course, frequented by tourists and people from the city, but there are a few beaches here and there. If you are a bit of a traveler and a bit of a enthusiast to find out, there are lots of little beaches that rarely get frequented by people. So it's if you can access them, it's a lot of fun to have a beach to yourself for the day. Historically, Newcastle was the edge of the Roman Empire, so it's the last big city. And if you can see the wall in the middle picture on the right, that's the famous border of the Roman Empire. That's the Hadrian's Wall. And for any Game of Thrones fans, that's also the famous wall in Game of Thrones. So it was shot, some of it was shot there, and it was inspired by that. A little bit more of pop culture trivia. The castle that you can see on the left is Alnwick Castle. And for any Harry Potter fans in the audience, that was where Hogwarts was shot in the first 2 or 3 movies. So yeah, a bit of good fun to travel around the northeast and around Newcastle. Alnwick Castle is only about a 20-minute drive just outside the city. And the university, of course, but the Students' Union organize a number of tours throughout the year to go have a visit at Alnwick. Just as I was mentioning, a number of really pretty beaches across the city, across the coast, sorry, just around the city. And we've got our famous ski side, which is the riverside, which has lots of bars and restaurants and cafes, where of course students and people from the city frequent throughout the week and definitely across the weekend. Our campus is almost 200 years old, so it's a mixture of old and new. The famous arches that we have are on the left. They're part of the oldest building complex in the university, known as the Armstrong Building. But we do have, our business school, which is at the bottom right, and we've got some really great sports facilities both in the city center but across the city in different places. So it's a great mixture of old and new, and kind of leaps Newcastle into the 21st century. And talking about that leap, in the last 3 or 4 years ago, Newcastle built a new campus called the Helix campus, which is again part of the city, about a 7 to 10 minute walk from the main campus, separated by a big park and the famous football stadium of Newcastle United. Now the Helix campus is built in partnership with the Newcastle City Council, the UK government and industry. And it hosts the National Innovation Centre for Data and the National Innovation Centre for Aging. So the most cutting edge research that's happening in the UK with regards to data, big data, data science in general, or aging and health happens on that campus. And a number of big tech companies and big industry leaders, not just in tech, but in law, in banking, all have offices and R&D centers on that campus. So it's a great link with industry right while you're studying at university. A number of students have gone on to do internships or collaborate on their master's projects in the last couple of years with some of these companies based on our campus. And of course, as the Helix grows over the next few years, those opportunities are only going to increase. Just a bit there. So the Helix campus also houses our School of Computing. So the top left building there is the Urban Sciences building, and that's where data science and computer sciences and game engineering, all of that's taught in that building there. It's one of the greenest buildings in all of the UK. It's actually a living laboratory. Just At the bottom there is the catalyst. That is what houses the National Innovation Center for both data and aging. And that's just across from the Urban Sciences building. And of course, our business school on the right, along with a couple of student accommodations and a really big hotel in Newcastle. That's a bird's eye view of the city. If you can see that there, that's the main campus for Newcastle University, and just about a 7 or 10 minute walk away, that's the business school and the Helix campus just around there. You've got your famous football stadium. The river is about a 15-minute walk from the main campus. All of this is based in the city center. So, you know, the biggest high street of Newcastle is just a stone's throw away from the main campus. And students in their break just end up going for lunch or to meet their friends into the city center and then come back to university quite easily. So it's quite easily, you know, it's easily walkable across the city, and most students just choose to walk. Myself, being a graduate of the university, I've done a lot of walking around the city.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And I'm sure Ranveer has too, but years ago. Yes, Ranveer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Just to give you an overview, the university is made up of 3 main faculties. There's the Humanities and Social Sciences, Science, Agriculture, and Engineering, and the Faculty of Medical Sciences, which of course is our oldest. The business school, which is triple accredited, again, putting it in the top 1% of business schools in the world. There's only 97 other schools that have triple accreditation, and our business school is one of those. Apart from that, our law school, School of Media, School of Architecture and Planning, Arts and Cultures, all of these are part of the Humanities and Social Sciences faculty, and they're based all across the main campus, of course, apart from the business school. Within the Faculty of Medical Sciences, apart from being really well known for medicine and dentistry, we are really well known for psychology. We rank quite high in the UK for that, for sports and exercise science. And as part of the great research that we do at university, there are 14 to 15 different research institutes that have, you know, that are now on campus as a result of the great, you know, the research that was happening in within the Faculty of Medical Sciences. And all these research institutes look at different areas of biomedical sciences, from cancer research to nanomedicine, to stem cell research, to microbiology, to biotechnology, and a few others that I can't remember right now. But a lot of those have directly resulted into Masters of Research courses. So for students looking at MRes courses at Newcastle, a lot of the curriculum, or almost all the curriculum on those programs, is based out of the most cutting edge research that's happening at university currently. Within agriculture and engineering, we've got our big school of computing, where we teach the data science, software engineering, game engineering, cloud computing. Just in terms of game engineering, Newcastle is probably one of the best places in the world to study game engineering. If any of you know the big sorry, gaming companies across the world, Rockstar Games, Ubisoft, have really good partnerships with our School of Computing and tend to hire from the university every year without fail. Having said that, you know, within the last decade or decade and a half, if companies like Rockstar Games have made any new game, it most likely had at least 3 or 4 Newcastle University graduates working on it. So it's very big industry links there and great partnerships that result in
you guys may be getting the games in advance then, no?
Some of our students and our professors do. So a lot of the professors on within that game engineering course have either worked or consulted industry for like 2 or 3 decades. So yeah, they
So
do
for UAT
get access to a lot of things. Yeah, big games. I think when the new GTA came out a few years ago, I think the professors and a few students got to test it before before it went
Lucky
in the
guys.
market. Yeah. Of course, below that is the School of Natural and Environmental Sciences, and that's where a lot of our key research in the field of sustainability happens, whether it's environmental sciences, whether it's biotechnology, chemistry, marine science. We're also coincidentally the National Innovation Center for Marine Research. So lots of different key areas of research at university. In terms of engineering, that's quite straightforward. We do all traditional engineering programs, and again, a key feature around that is renewable energy and the work we do around that. Right. So just to give you an idea of what teaching looks like in the majority of the UK, but also at Newcastle, teaching is kind of divided into three main areas. So you have lectures, you've got seminars, and if you're doing a technical course or a course that requires lab research, or maybe if you're doing a fine art or an architecture program, studio research, or your whatever you need to do in the studios, it's divided into pretty much all three of these. So lectures are areas where lectures are sessions where you'll get new teaching material delivered, and that will usually be to a large cohort of students. So a number of modules that you'll have at university might be shared across different courses, and a lecture is when a professor will kind of deliver that new teaching material to a number of students across different modules. You're then expected to go back, read through the material that's been delivered, do a bit of your own research, and come back into smaller rooms that you can see at the bottom there, which would be seminars where you can get your doubts cleared by professors, a PhD, teaching assistants. A lot of them come together in those rooms and kind of help you out with your doubts there to make that to kind of reinforce that teaching material. And of course, if you've got labs, you will have lab sessions across the whether you're doing projects or just trying to get the new material you've delivered and get a practical understanding of that. And that's kind of what it's divided into throughout the year. Apart from that, in terms of the resources we offer at university, our university library, which is the Philip Robinson, is one of the largest libraries across the UK. It has about 1.5 million books within it, but over 6 million ebooks. The UK doesn't really, or at university in the UK, you don't really get a particular textbook to kind of study through. You'll have access to a number of different books and a number of different resources that you'll use to do your research and to do your assignments, or your projects that have been assigned to you. Apart from that, there are a number of resource centers on campus, like the Writing Development Center, the Language Resource Center if you're looking to learn a new language or improve your academic writing skills. There's Math Aid for anyone who might be struggling with a component of mathematics on their course. Of course, different schools have their own facilities too. A lot of the schools might have their own little libraries, like the medical school has quite a large library. The School of Politics, Law School, they all have their own libraries. And there are computer clusters across the university campus, which are usually open 24/7 for anyone who wants to do group study or late study, study till late at night. Access to, of course, everything you need on campus right there.
Yeah, I remember while studying, every time there was a final, the library was completely packed and booked.
Oh,
Like there were no places to sit because everyone's doing group study. So that memory just became real fresh for me right now.
I know we used to have, I think someone would volunteer every morning to be at the library at 7:30 because that'd be the earliest time you can get
the
there and book
table.
for the rest of the day. Yeah. Book your rooms or get these big books that you can't take out of the library because there's only a limited number of them. Get all of that and then just sit down, and then we'd have like a day of just getting our assignments, cranking through that.
Agreed, agreed. This experience is out there for everyone to get, guys.
Definitely. And I'm going to speak to you a bit about that later too, but I think apart from the education, just the experience of one, of course, being halfway across the world, amongst people from literally all four corners of the planet, just the access that gives you of broadening your horizons or getting different perspectives in today's world, I think is, I know I come from a privileged position when I say everyone should do it, but I would highly encourage people who can to take it up, even if it's just for a year. I think it's a life-changing experience for sure.
Agreed.
But yes, getting back to the presentation, just in terms of entry requirements, anyone looking to study undergraduate in Newcastle typically would require at least 75 to 80%. Of course, that varies across the courses. Some of them would require much higher. Medicine typically requires you to have at least an 85% in your 12th grade. But yeah, course to course, just across the university, it's roughly somewhere between 75 and 80%. For postgraduate entry, it's usually between 60 to 65%. If you are applying for an MRes program, which would require a bit more research, they would like you to have a much higher grade in your undergrad, but also some amount of research experience. Across the university, we require a 6.5 at least for most of our programs. Again, some programs where there's a larger English component, or anything that's patient facing, or within the School of Medical Sciences, may require you to have a little bit higher on your IELTS test. We do accept the CBSE and the ISC 12th grade board qualification. So if you have scored more than 75 in your 12th grade English exam for an undergraduate application, we will not ask you to write the IELTS test. We would provide a waiver. If you are coming for a postgraduate course, we would also need you to provide an MOI from your university stating that your degree was taught and assessed in English. Typically, this is what the fee structure would look like. There's a range. The more social sciences courses will be based around the 21 to the 23,000 pound mark, and just because the technical courses require laboratory access and a lot of resources in that, they're a bit more on the higher side and ranging between 24 to 26 at undergrad and between 24 to 28.5 at the postgrad level. These fees do not include the fee for medicine, which is a bit higher than all of them. Across the university, we do provide a couple of scholarships for Indian students. The first one is the Vice Chancellor's International Scholarship. Now, this is a £4,000 scholarship, which every student is automatically assessed for as soon as they've made an application to university. It's purely based on how well they've done in their previous qualification. If they're applying for a UG program, that would be their 12th grade results. If they're applying for a PG program, that would be their undergraduate or their bachelor's degrees scores. If you qualify for that as a student, the university admissions team will let you know on your offer letter that you've been awarded a £4,000 scholarship. Once you've received an offer from the university, you can then apply for.
I personally think that's a great thing, because students don't really need to apply for it. And I know in times of applying for scholarship, there are a lot of addendums that come into play that a student needs to abide by. So good on you guys.
Cheers. So yeah, that's one that we're giving everyone the chance to have a look at, just purely based on merit. And as soon as they've made an application, they're automatically assessed for that. So that's one. You're right. That's one thing I actually think is quite great for anyone who's done well in their previous qualifications when they're applying to Newcastle. Along with that, we've got the Excellence Scholarship. For that, of course, you do need an offer from the university. So in the UK, you either get a conditional or an unconditional offer based on when you've applied and what documents you still have left to provide. But either of those two offers, you can still apply for the Excellence Scholarship. It's a separate application. There's 3 questions that you need to answer. They're general questions. They're not academic questions. So no one needs to study for it. But what they're essentially looking for is overall excellence. So that has to do with academics, extracurriculars, sport, work experience. All of that adds to that application. And of course, how well you answer those 3 questions on that application. The award for that is either 50 or 100% of your tuition fee. It is a competitive scholarship. There's only a certain number of scholarships available for Indian students. However, if you think you're great at what you do, by all means, please apply for that. There are 2 deadlines for that application. This year, the first one is at the end of March, and the second one is at the end of May. If this is a lot of information to go through, any course you're looking for, just go onto the university website, under every course page, under fee and funding, it will talk to you about, it will tell you what your fee for that program is and the scholarships you have access to. It's quite user friendly and you can quite easily see everything I've just spoken to you about. Now, being a big, so Newcastle's quite a big city in the UK. However, it is, like I mentioned previously, also one of the most affordable big cities to live in. The UK government puts an average of about £1,000 a month when you're living as a student in Newcastle. Now, pre-COVID and pre the rise in gas prices based on the war that's currently happening, the university used to say anywhere between 770 to 800. We've now said it's closer to £1,000 because costs have gone up a little based on the prices of oil going up all over the world. But it's still roughly around £1,000 per month. And of course, at the end of the day, that depends on how well you budget yourself. But that's the cost of living. It includes your accommodation, all your utility bills, groceries, travel, leisure, all of that put together. Finally, we've come to accommodation. Now, like I mentioned, Newcastle guarantees accommodation to all its international students. We have different accommodation based in and around the city centre, some on campus, some about 5 or 10 minute walk away, quite easily accessible. If you get onto the university website, you can take a virtual tour of all our accommodation, whether that's UG or PG, and see exactly what you're going to get. It tells you what the prices are for each of those accommodations, and the different options you will have, and most, if not all, I think about 95% have all their bills included. So once any prices that you're seeing would be inclusive of all your bills, so you don't have to think about that separately. Unlike India and the US, in the UK, you never share your room with anyone. You always get your own private room. What you will share will be the common areas of an apartment or a flat, which would mean like your common living area, your common kitchen, and depending on the choices you make, you either get your own personal bathroom or you'd be sharing that with 3 or 4 people. Typically, roughly between £400 to £650 per month. Lots of different options again, like I mentioned. At the undergrad, we also provide catered accommodation. We do not provide that at PG. It's only for the young 18-year-olds who probably don't know how to cook, who can have access to catered accommodation if they'd like. As part of our accommodations services on campus, we also have something called Res Life. They are an in-house team within the accommodation services, and they organize activities and events throughout the year for networking and for, just for people within these accommodations to kind of get to know each other much better. They were key during the COVID crisis because they'd managed to organize a number of really great events and kind of bring that personal touch when people were locked in their houses or their accommodation and couldn't come out during lockdowns all over the world. They really did have a big impact on the student experience. Just a little map of most of our student accommodations, and you can see a lot of them are about between 5 and 10 minute walk from the main campus. Now, as part of the access to careers at Newcastle, we do have a career service. It's one of the largest career services in the UK. Their primary responsibility is student employability. Now, as part of that, they do a number of different things. They help you out with your CVs, your cover letters, your job applications, preparing you for interviews, lots of mentorships and trainings and workshops that happen throughout the year. There's guidance in terms of how to prep for an application, how to prep for an interview, lots of workshops that happen throughout the year. Now, because Newcastle is one of the most targeted universities in the UK by big employers, a lot of them advertise directly on the career services website. So that's a great place to start looking for work, whether you're looking for part-time jobs in and around the city, whether you're looking for internships or of course for graduate roles. Most of those companies will end up coming to the big recruitment fairs that the career service organizes throughout the year. There's 2 or 3 that they're organized throughout the year, and it's a great place for students to network with these big companies. Apart from that, if you're looking to set up your own business either in the UK or back home in India, we do have startup support on campus as part of the career service, and there's with that support, there's funding and mentorship available to students to kind of help develop their idea while they're at university, and of course once they've graduated. Pre-COVID, our university-wide statistic was 95% of our students 6 months after they've graduated were either in further education or in or working in employment. I know that might have changed a little bit post-COVID, but as far as I can tell, it's still in above the 90%. We're still waiting on the latest UK government research, stats to come out for that. However, a lot of our Indian students have gone on to work for some of the biggest companies in the UK. Just some of those companies mentioned on the slide there for you to have a look. But apart from that, the biggest car companies in the world, Jaguar, Land Rover, Mercedes, McLaren, have all hired from the university previously and continue to do so. And a number of Indian students that I know in the past have gone on to work for some of these big companies, Amazon, IBM, like I mentioned, Jaguar, the big banks in the UK, so Royal Bank of Scotland, Barclays, Lloyds, HSBC, have all hired Indian students in the past. Great. In terms of student experience now, apart from the education, we do also provide a number of other facilities on campus. The Students' Union hosts about 250 different societies and over 65 different sports clubs on campus. So there's lots to do outside your education. Whether you wanted to play sport at a professional level or just for fun, there are lots of different options available for you. We have a state-of-the-art sports center, which you can book different indoor activities. You can book for different indoor activities. And apart from that, you can take part in sports, all the different societies on campus to whatever degree or whatever level you'd like. We do take sport very seriously at Newcastle. Out of the rowing team that won the gold for the Great Britain last Olympics, 3 of those rowers were former Newcastle University graduates. So yeah, lots to do while you're on campus, both in terms of your education, but also apart from that. Great. And lastly, in terms of applications, you can apply through UCAS for undergrad. UCAS is the Universities and Colleges Admission Service, and that's one common application that goes up to 5 different universities and 5 different courses. The deadline for that this year is 26th of June, if I'm not wrong, not the 30th. And the first deadline was the 26th of January, which is tomorrow. But you can apply within Jan and June, and we will be able to help you out with that. For PG, we now have our own admissions portal, so you can make a direct application through the university and just pick up any course that you'd like. We do recommend applying early for any course that you're looking for. Firstly, because of the volume of applications across the UK, courses close a lot faster, and secondly, it does take a bit of time for you to sort out all the different procedures before you can get your visa and actually fly down to the UK. So I would I would encourage you to give yourself that time, to make things easier and not having to rush right at the end. Perfect. I'm just gonna try and quickly play that video if I can. If it loads up. Whoops, there we go. Can you guys hear that?
No, can't hear it.
It might not be that fun then. I'm gonna try and get the. Oh, there's no captions available.
I think the bottom right.
Oh, how about again? You just put up the link in the chat.
I'll just put up the link for that. That's fine. All right, I'm gonna quickly stop sharing my screen. Yeah. Just gonna put the link for that.
So up until Achin puts up the link for both the videos, I'd like to open up the floor for anyone who has any questions uh, from either Ranveer or Achin.
Yeah, I've been trying to answer some of the questions
Yeah,
while
you have
Sachin was talking, just to keep everyone engaged. And I think some of them may have raised their hands, but I've tried to answer most of them. If there's anything further,
Yes, I believe Ketan had a question.
yeah,
Uh, Maybe Ranveer can answer this since
sure.
this
Yeah,
is a US question.
mm,
That for Jan 24th intake in MS
right.
USA, what will be the last date to apply?
Yeah. So typically it depends, Ketan, on obviously which university you're applying to, um, uh, because each university typically has certain deadlines, state and private. But I would say typically July, August would be the typical time to make an admissions application. It'll take you typically 6 to 8 weeks for admissions offer, and you need to plan for the visa time, which is typically taking up to two months, depending on which city you are. So typically, I would say July, August is the typical deadline to apply for the MS USA, depending on the university. So just a general response, but that's a
Yes,
general thing.
I mean
Fine.
for a general question, right?
Yeah.
Mohini had a question, and I think Achin can take that up. That what
Yeah.
kind
Yeah,
of
sure.
placement assistance is available at Newcastle University?
Sure. Now, was that Mohini?
Mohini, right? Yeah.
Great. Mohini, first thing, when you're when you're thinking of the concept of placements, when you fly out of India, you'd like to leave that concept of placements in India. We're the only country that does placements like we were used to in India. If you use the word placement in the UK, it actually means an internship. Now, having said that, um, like I mentioned, we've got a career service, and they are, like I said, probably one of the best career services in the UK. We've got very strong employer links, but the way you apply for jobs just looks a little different in the UK. No one's going to come to campus and give you an interview and give you an offer before you've graduated. It doesn't work that way. Um, it's not to say that there isn't plenty of job opportunity in the UK. The latest stat is that there are 1 million people short in their workforce. So there is plenty of opportunity. It just looks a little different. Um, 6 to 9 times out of 10, I would say if you're looking for a job, networking is very, very key. Get to the career service. A lot of students wait till the end of their course, which is something you would do in India, to start looking at jobs. You need to start doing that much earlier when you're in the UK. It takes a bit of time. You have to get your CVs might be great, but they might not be what in the format or what British businesses are used to. Get to a career service, take their advice. They'll help you rejig your CVs, look at the areas that you lack a little bit of skills in, work on that year, use that year to work on those skills, those soft skills that you'll need, and then take those up. If you can, dedicate yourself to that throughout the year, there are great opportunities available, whichever area of study you might have come to do at Newcastle. I hope I've answered that well. If there is a follow-up question, Mohini, please let me know.
Right. So I guess we'll wait for Mohini to answer. But up until then, we can take Shilpa's question. And this is a question to both of you, Ranveer and Achin, that what are the popular courses and career destinations in the UK?
Achin,
Do
would you want
do
to
Okay, sure.
take that part? Yeah.
Sure,
I
sure,
can
sure.
just add
Uh,
after you.
Great. Shilpa, it varies, and I have a really tough time answering this question because my simple answer to this question is whatever you're interested in is the best course for you to do. There are great courses to do, but if you're only doing something just because there's the typical INU, which is scope for that degree, um,
Yeah.
you know, there might be a lot of scope for it, but if you're not really interested in it, you might not be as great as the other people on that degree. Think about it this way: if you get to Newcastle or any of these universities based in the UK or anywhere in the world, you're coming to the top 1% of the universities in the world. People who are coming from different parts of the world have all done well wherever they are to come to these universities. So if you've got a classroom of 60 people, the majority of you are probably going to graduate with a similar score. If I'm an employer, or Ranveer or Jatin are employers, out of those 60 people, why would we hire you instead of the other 59? That's what you've got to prove. If you're looking at, of course, all around the world, STEM has a more higher employability rate. So a lot of people are looking at STEM courses. You've got business school courses that people look at. But at the end of the day, it's about, and like I was telling Mohini, it's about the skills you bring to a job. I know people who've done a degree in engineering and work as investment bankers. I know people who've done a degree in business and work as technology analysts for some of the biggest consultancies in the world. I know someone who's done a degree in history and works, I'm not even joking, in the engineering department at a car company. It's literally the skills you bring.
Right.
It's not
That's
as,
amazing.
yeah. Even if you think about India for that matter, the placements that someone asked about, 99% of engineers end up working in an IT company.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is those transferable skills.
Agreed.
No, absolutely. I would
Ranveer,
just like to
anything?
add,
Yeah.
I'd just like to add to that. Newcastle is also one of the universities which is accredited by the Bar Council in India. So the law
Yes,
programs are also extremely popular. Gives you the
that's true.
flexibility to return to India if you wish to, after maybe getting some work experience or a sandwich program, and take an additional one or two modules and also practice in India. And the same holds also for the MBBS programs. Those are highly competitive, but also accredited by the Medical Council in India. And I think Achint has mentioned all the other programs, all the STEM, engineering, fashion, law, arts, sciences are highly reputed, and now with the mutual recognition, those courses are also recognized by both the government in India for continuing on to a PhD if you wish to do so. So the mutual recognition of UK India has certainly helped and increases the validity and the benefit of studying in the UK.
Yeah. Thanks, Ranveer. I forgot the MCI and the Bar Council of India. Should have mentioned that.
Achan, Nithi has a question for you. That is there an application fee for graduate applications? What is the scope of environmental engineering? Is UK better in terms of growth and opportunities than the US, or is it the other way around?
Sure. So in
It's
terms
a
of
three-part question. I should
no
have
worries.
said that.
No worries. In terms of application fee, none of our master's courses have an application fee. We used to have an application fee for our business school courses. That doesn't exist anymore. So you can apply directly for our business school programs. Just to add to that, if anyone's applying for a UG course through UCAS, there is a common application fee. And correct me if I'm wrong, Ranveer, it's £25.
Yeah, it's about 26 pounds.
26 pounds. But it's one common application that goes to 5 different universities. So when you're making the undergraduate application, there's an application fee for that, not for the master's level. The second part of that question was environmental engineering. Like I mentioned, we're number one in the UK and number 8 in the world for sustainability and climate change research. Probably one of the best places to come and study environmental engineering. Some of the biggest firms in the world that are working in that area, so Sembcorp, Arup, AECOM, they all hire from the university every year. So definitely a great place to study that. While I say that Newcastle is a great place, I'm not going to tell you that the US is not. It still has great institutions in the world. It is probably the top destination in the world to go study. So I'm not going to say ours is better than theirs or theirs is better than ours. They're both great institutions. You've got to see what works for you at the end. I would say pick up different course content and look at the content in detail. That's a great way of evaluating different degrees. They're both probably great degrees, but one of them probably you're more interested in what the other one has to offer. And I think that's a great way of comparing programs at different universities and different countries.
And
Did
just
I
like to
manage
add
to
to
answer? Yeah, sorry.
that, I'll just add to that that most courses in the UK are full-time one-year programs. and as compared to typically 2 years in the US, where you have a 3-4 month summer break and a 1-year Christmas break. So that may impact your ROI if you wanted to be in the job market earlier or later, provided you're willing to obviously do a 1-year master's, which is internationally recognized, but in a 1-year format versus a 2-year format. I think that's something which students need to also keep in mind. And obviously keep in mind your funding requirements and the course and electives, which Achint has mentioned. Maybe if you wish, maybe
For funding requirements, we are always here, ready to help with open arms at HDFC Credila. So I would just like to put that out there. And before we just hang up, I have one final question. It's to both of you guys. That is education gap after bachelor's degree accepted for master's course applications? Because now, especially in times of COVID, every person has a different scenario, a different situation. So I think it's a very valid question to end our webinar on. So guys, the floor is yours.
Ranveer, do you want to take that one first, or should I?
Well, I think go ahead.
Okay.
And I'll just add to it.
I can just say at Newcastle, we've never had an issue with a gap in education. When I was doing undergrad at Newcastle, I had a course mate who was 42 years old. So that's never been an issue. It's just about what you did in that gap. Of course, and I think every university in the world understands what's happened in the last 3 years, and the tough times everyone's had, and what people could do and couldn't do in those couple of years at least. So that's one thing. But if you have a larger gap, if you've been working in industry, or you've been, I know in India a lot of people prepare for the UPSC right after their bachelor's and then have that gap, or do the ACCA or whatever else, these competitive exams. We're perfectly all right with that, as long as you can showcase that you've been doing something in your gap, in those gap years, instead of just sitting at home. That's all right.
Yeah, I would just just add to that exactly what Achint has mentioned. Be clear as to what is the reason for the gap, whether it was from medical reasons, professional reasons, academic reasons of taking entrance exams. I think you need to have transparency, and you need to be able to validate that. If it's WorkX, I think WorkX adds a lot to master's programs, and certainly is very welcome, because it adds to your professional experience, especially for the MBA programs. I think Newcastle has a 3-year or a 5-year requirement, right? Because it's
3+ minimum, yes.
Right, it's a triple accredited business school. So certainly WorkX certainly helps. And the idea is to have a CV which is clearly understood as per the formats, typically, for the target country in particular. I can just see Niket, the others raised a hand, but I'm not sure whether we want to get
I think that's an old one. That's
old one. Fine.
All right. So on that note, I would again like to thank you guys for joining me today to our webinar. I have gotten a lot of good information. I hope our attendees did as well. So again, thanks Ranveer and Achint for joining us, and hopefully we could do this again with another topic on hand.
Absolutely.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Jatin. Thanks, Ranveer.
Thanks, guys. You all have a great day.
You too.
You.
Bye.
Thanks. Take care. Talk soon.
Thanks.